Life does not always go as planned. You may be on plan B, C, D, E, F, or G, and that's okay. Life can be beautiful and messy. It doesn't have to be perfect. After crying on my kitchen floor for nearly 2 years when my first husband left, I found my plan B and a depth of resilience I didn't even know I had. I'm Beth Pass, life coach. Have you ever needed to really reinvent yourself? I redesigned my life by allowing my feelings, forgiving and accepting myself in the new reality, really surrendering, plus connecting with others. We don't have to do it alone. Reframing our negative thoughts and emotions, and by not looking too far down the road. Now I have an incurable joy and zest for life. My favorite hashtag is, what if it's better? If you're looking for motivation and inspiration with other resilient, fun, successful midlife women, keep listening to the Pain to Power podcast. You'll meet amazing women who dropped being the victim and found victory. Listen in to create a spark in you to navigate this wild ride called life that comes with living full out. Hello, Pain to Power podcast people. And one of my friends, speaker today, Krista Powers. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Krista and I were just talking before we hit record that I never run out of people to interview because I hang around these high vibe people that have been willing to look at their pain of their life. And that's kind of like kind of a negative word, like, what's your pain? But really, everybody could be interviewed because we have some sort of pain. The difference is if we stay committed to the pain, or if we stay willing to go out there and make something different. So today, listeners, I want you to meet Krista Powers. She is an energetic, trustworthy, powerful, prayerful, vulnerable woman with an infectious laugh. I know you're going to get to hear it today. She is a catalyst and a contributor. Krista is also the CEO and founder of Potere Coaching. Personally, she leverages over 2 decades of experiences, moving beyond surface solutions and diving into the deep work, exactly what I was just talking about. And that deep work is innovation and transformation with individuals and organizations. Personally, she's committed to creating a loving, free, abundant world. Yes, please. Krista shares her life with an amazing man and his daughters in Covington, Kentucky. So welcome, Krista. What would you add to your introduction that the listeners might need to know today?
Ooh, so my 2023 word of my year is radiant. Excuse me. So yeah, radiance. And what's so interesting, Beth, is I'm feeling like some tension of that. And so, yeah, I will just share that in all honesty and vulnerability that I believe your word is free. Is that right? Freedom?
Free. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a ring. Oh my gosh. And I'm not wearing it today. What does that mean? But it's like, yes. And you're feeling a little resistance, meaning it's not a home run yet. And it gets to still work on you and you're working on it. And so clarify, is it radiant with a T or CE on the end? Radiance.
So I use both, to be perfectly honest. I interplay. I'm like, I am radiant or I am radiating. I am radiance. Yeah, I go everywhere with it. I give myself that freedom.
Well, I love that. What made you choose that word? Before we dive into your pain, like I just want to know, like it's almost like what's the opposite of radiant or radiance? Like what were you coming from that you get to go to that?
Oh, great question. So last year, I really focused on trust, self trust. And what I believe the opposite of radiant is for me is muted or dull. And so through the year of 2022 and stepping into self trust, I felt myself beginning to glow and to emanate all the stuff, the juiciness of me. And so I was like, okay, I get to now claim this and name it and own it and be radiant.
How will you know when you are?
Ooh,
I
Beth.
know, I know. And
So
just a little side note for all the listeners, Krista and I have been dear friends for like 1 year. So even it's not 20 years, it's 1 year, and we were buddies in a program where we were paired up, and we had to call each other on our crap. Like, we couldn't just
mhm,
go, "Oh, yeah, sounds good. Go, Krista." We were like, our success was your success and your success was mine, and so we are warmed up, people, listeners. We're warmed up for the hard questions. So, yeah, Krista,
yeah.
what do you think?
Well, and the other little side asterisk there is you and I learned so the importance of breathing. And so I just thank you in the space of a podcast where, we did get to be on and we get to be speaking fluidly to one another to just give myself that chance to take a breath with that question. And that's, I believe, actually where I do know when I am radiating, where it's as much inside of me as percolating out of me, that I am paying attention and I have that surge of energy of like, whoa, here I am. And it's not just everyone else noticing, it is me because I took a beat and I claimed it and I felt it.
You
So I'm
guys,
feeling it right now, actually. So
yes,
thank
yes, because that's why I was asking, because I'm like, you are radiant. My experience of you is standing for radiance and leading the pack on radiance. And what's so interesting, you and I have been mirrors of each other's lives, like what you're going through, often I am. And when I asked a question and you took a breath and there was a pause, the old me got uncomfortable and I filled that space. And I said,
Mhm.
well, while Krista's thinking of her answer, let me fill the space. But like that's the answer, is being okay to take a breath. I'm taking my shoulders and kind of like putting them
Mhm.
back on my shoulder blades, and so I recognize that that is growth for you and me to just breathe.
Yeah, and permission for everyone, right? So anyone listening, just take up our space. I'm starting to say this phrase of we get to create space for others and we get to take up space for ourselves. It's both. It's always like this duality, the contrast, which I will say is kind of that from chaos to calm. That midlife calm and that authenticity is holding the duality and choosing in any given moment the direction we want to stand in and go.
That is the perfect segue to the real topic that we're here. So I invited you. You're an author. I don't even know if that was in your bio. Whoa, we need the bio. You brought out a book just last year. You brought a song out along with the book. Like, I feel like being innovative, very authentic. And the title is near and dear to really everyone's heart, not just us midlifers, I would say, but the topic is really from a chaos to calm. Give me the full title of your book so that we can hear it. And then what made you write a book like that?
Sure. So the book is called Midlife Calm, an alternative to midlife crisis. And as the author, I get to also now slash the title. It'll always be Midlife Calm. I get to also just let people know that it really is invitation to create your calm, whether you're 6 or 106. So yeah, it's much broader than midlife. And what caused me to write the book, I guess I was 42 when I began. Um, it was literally my own, I'll say pain. I didn't name it as pain, but it was my experience of being tight, having all the external noise and expectations that I decided to claim and take on for myself. No, not many others did it for me, but from the age of a little girl of choosing to be a really good student and very well behaved in great grades into college, just showing up and being in community service activities to professionally making sure I was climbing the ladder and progressing and my image of being married and having, 2.5 kids and gated yard, all of those societal expectations that I chose to live within, I finally was at this point where I was like pushing out of it. So those listening, I'm like just kind of like pushing out of this invisible box around me because I was sick of being tight and rigid and small. And there was this knowing within me that I had more, that I was allowed to be bigger than the box that I had created for myself. And that's where this book came from. It comes from this idea of align within. Let that inner wisdom and inner voice speak as loudly as the external noise.
Mm, mic drop moment, tight, rigid, and small, because I love that you're putting language to some of the things that maybe the listeners and I and you have felt, but we didn't really call it that. We didn't know it
Mm,
was that. So, what? So you mentioned a couple, good student and, coloring within the lines, that kind of
mm,
stuff. What else would you say, maybe a story from your background or one of your clients that you coach? How do we know if we're being tight,
mm.
rigid, and small? Like, what else does that look like?
Mhm. Well, I'll maybe like source a story here. I will say immediately though, when I hear somebody say I'm burned out, that my ears and my heart are like, "Oh my goodness, you're living really tight and contained." So what's going on there, right? And so gosh, I think about I'm going to actually tell you this little image that is someone who's not living that way. And it's a 10-year-old in my life who I just love, this little spirit, and she will show up and she will like not even have music playing, but she'll just start singing, and she literally like just flings her arms in the air and she throws her head back and she sings, and I'm like, wow, kiddo, like way to show up. You don't care, right? Like, and she's not doing anything that matters. She doesn't care. It's all like joy. But I think it's when we start to say, oh, what will they think of me? That's when we're playing small and we're like really like crunching ourselves down. Or when we start to, get so fixated on climbing that career ladder and having that job that we forget the wholeness of who we are and the divinity of who we are. And so it becomes like this fixation and so narrow of a lens that we have. Like those are some of the like more broad stories of what I often hear for people.
Yeah. When you said like a narrow narrative, immediately what I thought of is one of your favorite words to say and to really conjure yourself or call yourself forward is awe.
Mhm.
Awe, and isn't it wonder?
Wonder and awe. Yes.
Wonder, and so I feel like those aren't words that I use usually, that you use usually, probably any of the listeners. Like, so how do we go from this tight, rigid to a
Mm,
woman who's like the 10-year-old,
yeah.
living with no rules kind of thing, to this awe and wonder? What's in between there? Can you paint a
Mm.
picture?
Yeah, and it starts to poke at like what are the things that we can practice every day is what I'm hearing in that question. For me, I think the journey, the one that we've already spoken into is breathing, taking a beat, pausing, which in a very busy, chaotic world is countercultural. And so my invitation is for humans to be countercultural in order to save ourselves, in order to align and show up authentically. We have to check in order to know. And then it's, oh gosh, Beth, we both read a book and I will not remember the title or the author at the moment, but it's this whole concept of lose your mind, come back to your senses. And at first I was like kind of, giggled about that concept, and then I've just realized, oh wow, that is like such the truth. If I notice my senses, whether it's sense or smell or sight or tactile, I'm a massive tactile person, that draws me into presence and slowing down and paying attention. And that slowly starts to turn that dial down from the external and turn the dial up of the internal wisdom. So I think those are like really small little steps. I'm happy to throw a couple others out
Yeah,
also.
I think that the listeners and are so curious about tools that are just takeaways from this podcast that have worked for you, that you may have suggested for clients they've had good results with? What other tools?
Yeah, definitely. So I really like a blend of kind of Eastern and Western beliefs and practices. So a couple of others. There's there's a Hawaiian mantra. It's Hopo Ono Ono, and it's a prayer and a mantra of forgiveness and reconciliation. And it's four statements. And they're so beautiful. And the invitation is to repeat these 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 times with yourself. And the mantra is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And to just repeat those, ooh, brings so much up for me just saying it, speaking it here, and not even like being in the deep practice myself, because it causes a lot of rumblings in the heart when you say those words, and especially if you're saying them to and with yourself, let alone with someone else.
Well, that's what I wondered is this mantra, you called it, or a prayer, do you say it silently to yourself? Do you say it out loud to other people? Is it tell me more.
For me, the most powerful is saying it out loud to myself. So it can be in the bathroom, in the mirror to myself. It can be in the car when I'm driving. It can be when I'm, plopping down on the couch at the end of the day. Out loud to myself is what truly cracks me open. And it also can be a practice that I use with someone else in my life. I don't necessarily say it to them, eyeball to eyeball, but I say it from me to their spirit, right? To them. I call them to mind and heart, and I speak those words with them as the person to receive it and go through the process as well.
I bet it could also be a beautiful journal prompt, especially if there's someone in our life who we get to forgive or send love to. I'm thinking we both have ex-husbands, and
Mm-hmm.
one time I was given the exercise to do some journaling, and it seemed so scary. I think because I thought I was going to have to say it to him. And
Right.
it was just for me. It's just in my journal, and it was very powerful.
Yes, I love that. So here's another one that I've learned in the past year. It's called Sing Hue, Hu, and yet it's pronounced Hue. And Hue is an ancient name for God, and whatever the listener believes, right? Like that works. Whatever you believe, this is just an ancient word, and it's literally using sound and tone and vibration. And so it's singing Hue and going there. So Hue, or you can go higher and you can give it tonations and holding that. And it's literally a meditation that opens the heart and that chakra. And it's really interesting. I've not like done deep practice with it personally yet. However, the shallow practice, the here and there periodic practice I've done is incredibly soothing. And so when I think about the chaos or frenetic energy that I might pick up in a day or a week of my to-do list, like being busy and being frantic, to have something that is so simple that can be done in 15 seconds that can create some calm. Oh my goodness, yes, please, every day of the week.
Well, I'm thinking I could do this driving in my car when I'm
Yeah.
on my way somewhere,
In
and
the
so
shower.
right, and so literally it's a simple I just wanna make sure I got it, that I'm singing the word H-U, H-U-E, whatever, word hue.
You.
You know, when that vibrates, I
Mhm,
literally feel
mhm,
my heart opening and expanding.
mhm,
And the other thing, and you mentioned this a little bit ago, when we just do so much thinking,
mhm.
and there's just we can't think our way out of some
No.
things. And so by opening up with either the Hopo Ono thing, that's
Yep.
what's still new to me too, listeners. We're learning together.
Yeah.
And I'll put a link in the show notes so people can actually see that in writing. And then the singing hue, to me, it feels not like of my cognitive, it's putting it into my body.
Yes, exactly. And you can feel it, and you can feel it in your throat, and you can feel it in your heart, which is a practice that it invites us into something that's not typical in our culture once again, right? And so yes, it's almost like personally, I can't think when I'm doing it. I'm just experiencing it, which is a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So share more about, kind of like you knew now, if you knew then what you know now about calm. Imagine there's somebody listening that feels like maybe this is for me, but what would you say to your younger self or the past you that would, because you're so much wiser now, you've done so much inner work that I want to glean some of that for our listeners.
Mhm.
What would you sh-
Yeah. So I would say, hey, Krista. Hey, past Krista. Let's try this. What if we tried being curious instead of always having the answer and like clinging on to that? I've got this. I know. It's all okay. Let's try being curious and just inviting myself into that. So curiosity is a big one for me and I believe for anyone. The next one is self-trust, and I've shared with you before, probably a year ago, this phrase of trust the process. I get it, my head gets it, and I've always just like blown it off. It feels very like, okay, yeah, yeah, trust the process. However, in my own work in the past year, I went through a couple steps one day and I went from trust the process and went, well, life is the process. Okay, that feels a little meatier to me anyway. And then I thought, I am life, I am alive. And so, and then my final step was trust myself. So trust the process became trust myself. I am the process. I am here. I am present. I am alive. And really calling that in. And once again, getting in touch with my senses, getting in touch with a little bit of a pause here and there in the middle of a day and a week and a month to listen to myself and then to go with what I need and how I'm showing up and what I want to say and what I want to do and how I want to be. So curiosity, trust, and those two for me really point to authenticity, and I think authenticity is at the core of calm and being calm because you know me well enough that my calm kind of looks like woohoo, like it is grounded, energetic calm and confidence and love of self. Whereas others, their calm might be serene and peaceful and that cool blue ocean. And others might be, fiery and right. It's about authenticity. So curiosity and trust, I
Mm,
believe, are a path.
I love that. I often say that I am a grounded cheerleader. There's
Mm.
been times when I have been so off the hook that I can't even be heard by people because my energy is just crazy. And like I said, can't be heard. And so I like that kind of like, it's not that you and I don't have to go to serene and
Right.
stillness. We can be ourselves and
Yes.
yet be a grounded, trusting ourselves version of us.
Exactly. Yes. And it's almost like when we practice that, I think that chaos, it's almost like war with ourselves within. If I'm feeling chaotic and spinning up, not in a good way, it's because there's something inside that I'm holding tension and I'm creating the division and the like combativeness within myself. And so just stepping into okay, I don't have the answers, right? Like, what's going on here? What am I feeling? How could I give this some space and who can I request support from? Like all of those things allow me to like unwind that knotted ball and arrive at calm once again.
Mm. I love it. And I'm glad to know that once you got calm, you don't just stay there.
No, no. I mean, please, but also no way because we're
Yeah.
human, right? Yeah. I can go in and out of it 100 times a day. And then some days I can be landed there for days on end also. So yeah.
So I want to indulge the listeners in something that I think is one of your superpowers. And we didn't plan on talking about this, but like it just keeps coming to me. So I recently got to witness you speaking to a small group on Zoom, and the way you began the connection was so powerful. And I feel like it's a stand for you around authenticity of being able to be heart to heart with people. Will you share a little bit about that? Because I feel like if the world just did that in meetings to,
Mm,
just like get everybody on the same page, like it changed the meeting. It was so cool.
mm.
Will you share?
Yeah. So Beth, I'm thinking of two things. I'm thinking of the lean in and I'm thinking of acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement.
Okay. Okay. So, oh, yes. And this comes from my friend Candace, who is just an angel in my life, and others. So, it's this idea of telling people what I want to be acknowledged for. And then also, it's me inviting others, hey, what would you like to be acknowledged for? And what's funny is, I think most times people are like, huh? What, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, what legacy do I want to leave? Or what? Like, they get all like frantic, right? I'm like, just whatever. What would you today, right now? What would you like to be acknowledged for? And then they speak it, and I believe they think that's it, right? And it's not it, because then the acknowledgement comes. And so I say, let's practice it, my friend. Beth, what would you like to be acknowledged for?
Just okay, I just have to point out, when someone asks you that kind of a question, I immediately am, like, so humbled, and I'm
Mm,
so grounded in my heart. It makes you feel so seen and heard. About ready to cry just being
yeah.
seen like that and witnessed. So, Krista, what I would like to be acknowledged for today is that I haven't fallen apart, that
Mm,
there's a lot going on in my life with my family, with health stuff, with things that feel out of control. And I would like to be acknowledged that I am still breathing and I'm still foot in front of the other. It might be messy, it might not be pretty, but I'm still here.
mm, Beth, I acknowledge you for setting down the playbook, made up rule book. I acknowledge you for holding a lot as well as choosing to release a lot. Set it down, it'll still be there. I acknowledge you for being present and for being so clear about the people you love and what's important to you, that you're willing to stand in the questions of life more than the answers. And I acknowledge you for your heart and your vulnerability and your openness with others to say, hey, it's not all a straight and narrow path. This is messy. I'm going to embrace it. Would you like to join?
Mm,
Mm,
just
mm.
receiving that, it it almost just makes you, whatever the topic of the meeting was going to be, you're like,
Yeah.
"Yes, we're in this together because she sees me." And don't
Yeah.
you feel like, especially in the corporate world, people are kinda like, "Let's just get this over with," kind of, and I'm just so struck by the simplicity of this.
Yeah, it is. It's a new conversation, which is what I would love to be known for and what I would love to, what I am up to. And I would say to anybody listening who's like, I can't do that in a business meeting, I'm going to tell you what. January 30th, I stepped into a meeting with a president and two VPs and a couple new business partners and myself, and we started the meeting that way. And I was a little bit unnerved inside, but I also had this knowing that it's such a gift to others, that no matter if we're in business or play or personal or financial or whatever, that it matters to slow down enough to interrupt ourselves and the default mode of our thinking and our process and our path, that we crack open, we reach down into our hearts and we see each other and we be with one another. And you're right, the meeting was gold, was like, could not have gone better. So I say, if anybody wants to take the challenge, the question is, what would you like to be acknowledged for? And I'll add one other thing. It can be as simple as repeating the words back to the person. It can be that simple. I have a practice of deep listening, so I go further. I speak what I hear within what the person wants to be acknowledged for. It can be really simple.
So what do you suppose the magic is? Is it just this being witnessed, being seen? Because I mean, the magic is, I guess it's getting on a heart level before you get
Yeah.
to your agenda.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about how we interact with kids and how we praise them, acknowledge and celebrate, and how that fades away when we're adults. And yet we still crave it. So it must be something about the heart connection, right? It must be something about the human being versus the human doing. And as kids, we celebrate just who they be, who they are. And we're coming back to that. And so it's almost honoring the whole person. Maybe, one side's been been honored and seen, acknowledged, and there's this other side that person's craving to be seen.
Yeah. When I work with clients, I often end each session with, I acknowledge you for, and I repeat back some of the things from our session. And then I share what I see for you is radiance and greatness. And usually it's met with tears. And people, they just say, I just wanted you, I want to know that I can do this. So that acknowledgement piece is huge. And thank you for waking me up to it. And I hope we've sparked some curiosity around acknowledgement in your regular conversations with your family, with your friends, with your clients, and in the workplace, possibly. So,
Yes.
Krista Powers, it has been a total delight to do a little thinking together with you. How do people connect with you? I know you're on LinkedIn and a few other places. Please share. And then I would, anything else that we didn't get to say, I'm giving you the final microphone.
Okay. So my website is Potere Coaching, and that's Potere coaching.com. So anyone can track me down there, email or phone. And my message is create your calm, right? It's the call to action for all of us. And if it feels stretchy, that's okay. Practice some of the practices we talked about. Take some little step for yourself to create your calm. And even if you have it for 3 seconds today and for 30 seconds tomorrow, you win. Like, great job. You're doing it. You're no longer trying, you're actually living it. And so that's what it's about. And I honor each person for taking the time to listen. And for you, Beth, for creating the space. Thank you. I could talk to you for like 14 more hours.
I know. I love it. And thank you, listeners, for being willing to be curious around from your pain to your power, not being committed to the pain, but being committed to getting out of the crisis, getting out of the chaos, living differently. So I love you, Krista Powers, and thanks for joining me today, everyone.
So grateful you tuned in to another episode of Pain to Power podcast. Each month, I'm committed to bringing you juicy, raw, real life stories and shine a light on the women whose lives are often very messy, and yet they dropped being a victim to their life circumstances and stood in victory in their thoughts and emotions. I love to inspire and motivate women to love their life. If you want to receive more inspiration, come play in my private Facebook group called Best Life Tribe for inspiration on the daily, or join my email list for connections, strategies, and tips. Join at bethmontpass.com. I am a certified coach, trainer, and speaker. I lead inspiring private and small group workshops, resulting in authentic coaching in a vibrant community. I host personal and group retreats as well as virtual gatherings designed to ignite your life and get you back to loving your life. Let's get social. Connect with me on Facebook at Beth Montpass Coach, or Instagram at Beth Montpass, or on LinkedIn at Beth Montpass.